Stream. Let's see if it goes green there. Green there. Okay. So
Here, let me load one. I can do this too.
You can do it.
Once you're, I mean, you can start. I'm gonna go to my community tab.
Okay.
And I'm gonna try to post this.
Hey, welcome back everybody to SJG Perspective. I am joined today by a new friend of mine, Tom Binnz. I'm going to try to figure out, it might be a little bit of a, there he is. Say hello, Tom.
Hey, how's everybody doing? It's a pleasure to be on your stream with you tonight.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. You are, that is glitching a little bit. Let's see if you're still working. He's in the Matrix right now, folks. You're going to have to, wait, there he is. He's coming back. Maybe it's because you were uploading the other one. It had to catch up with the stream. We'll see if it goes live again. Are you there with us? Oh, yeah. I saw you blink.
Yep.
Okay, good. You're back.
Here.
All right, sweet. So if you guys haven't checked out Tom's channel, it's just Tom Binnz, right? That's just your...
Yeah. Binnz.
Cool. You guys need to go over there and check it out. It's a great channel he has. He does like 10 to 15 minute segments on stuff that comes out on the news and just does commentary. And I found him a while back when I was starting my channel and I really liked the stuff, so I subscribed. And then I bugged him and said, "Hey man, I want to do a stream with you. I like your content. I like what you're saying." And he agreed. So I have him on my stream. So I'm pretty stoked about that. So what's new in your world, man? What's new and hot going on in your world, Tom?
Oh, just living the dream, man. You know, just trying to stay up on top of everything, and you know, doing the YouTube thing. So. A lot of interesting stuff this week. We've had, you know, Trump deal with the censorship issue with the on campus with the executive order. Mueller report dropped tonight, so that's the big hot news of the day. So we could definitely get into that for sure. Yeah,
and I think you are, you know, I kind of wanted to bring you in on this because, like I was telling you before the stream started, I hadn't really got a chance to do a lot of research up on that yet. But I do know that. I'm sure you probably have because you seem to be up on it all. You know, most of what's currently going on, but. It's interesting, the bits and pieces I have been hearing, and we've heard this even before it came out. They were already knowing and catching word that they weren't going to find anything in this, you know, this ghost chase and goose chase, whatever. They knew they weren't going to find anything, so they were already they were already positioning themselves to be like, well, you know, even if we don't find anything, it really wasn't about the Russia investigation. It was more about, you know. They're already trying to spin it, and I find it pretty amusing on that.
Yeah, well, and the funny thing is, like, if you've been, and I've been following this case, and oddly enough, this is something I used to cover a ton on my channel, and then it seemed like, and I was really in depth into the whole FISA-gate, Spygate, and then after the midterms, when we had the shift in the House and the investigations got moved to the Senate, I kind of dipped off, and I just kind of, I feel like my audience, I kind of like neglected them on that issue, so I've been trying to slowly work it back in.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you really look into this case, there's absolutely nothing there.
Right.
There's nothing, and there's no evidence of collusion between Trump and Russia. And it's funny because the real collusion, when you really look into this case, and I recommend this book consistently, Spygate by Dan Bongino. I actually have it like right next to me right now because I was doing a video and mentioning it the other day. But it's a good read because when you look into the players involved into the lead up to the 2016 election and what was going on during it, the real collusion was between the Clinton campaign and the Ukrainians.
Yeah.
The Ukrainians were heavily involved with the issue because they want you to focus on Trump and Russia to divert you away from where the real collusion was, and it was really the issue with Paul Manafort. So, if you don't mind, I'll digress into this for a minute.
Yeah, no,
so,
go.
Okay, so what happened was we had Paul Manafort, right? He comes on to the Trump campaign. Well, he was previously working for Viktor Yanukovych, who was the former president. I think it's a different term in Ukraine, but more or less the president of the Ukraine.
Right.
He was super pro-Russia. This was the whole deal with Crimea and Obama and all this stuff that was going on. So there was a bunch of Ukrainians that got really kind of pissed about this, and they were like scared because you have Trump hooking up with Manafort. Manafort was connected to Yanukovych, so that's where the whole like Russian collusion kind of narrative started. And it really started with a journal, or not even a journalist. She was an individual that was in kind of a journalist. I guess she did do some journalistic work, but her name was Alexandra Chalupa, and she, which is kind of funny in itself.
Like talk about Chalupa.
Chalupa, yeah, right. But she's a Ukrainian American. She worked for the DNC and worked for Clinton campaign officials. Well, she gets a nice little sum of like $412,000, and then she sails off into the sunset to go investigate Manafort. So she then links up with Michael Isikoff, who's the individual who wrote the article about the Steele dossier without disclosing that he got the information from Christopher Steele, that then Comey or whoever was involved with the FBI and DOJ at the time took Michael Isikoff's article and the Steele dossier and used them as two separate pieces of evidence to get the FISA warrant on Carter Page, when really it was the same piece of evidence. Yeah. And this is where all of this was the real collusion, was between Ukraine and people. And it wasn't even necessarily collusion, but the Ukrainians had a vested interest, because they didn't like Manafort, to getting Clinton elected. And this is what we're seeing with this new investigation. I don't know if you heard about that, but there's an investigation going on in the Ukraine to whether or not parliamentarian officials were involved in leaking information to the media to basically try to bring down the Trump campaign through Paul Manafort's Black Ledger docs.
Oh, no, I didn't hear anything about that. Yeah. No, it's not. No, I find it interesting, and maybe where does this tie in? Getting your thoughts on this, but why we've gotten away from the whole, I mean, the real collusion with the Clinton Foundation. I mean, why has that story? I mean, I think we know as conservatives, I think we can say we know kind of why that story's died, but that to me is what blows me away. It's she was selling selling rights to our uranium to the Russians, and they were donating millions of dollars in the Clinton Foundation, and not to mention all the emails that she lost, right, that just were destroyed. I mean, why have we gotten away from that? It's like, give me your thoughts on that.
Well, the basic simple thing is you don't have a legitimate honest press in this country. You have a bunch of political activists that front as journalists. Right. That's the problem, because if you were fair and objective and you actually cared about things, like government corruption and the rule of law and the republic, you would be looking into these kinds of things. But it's always a free pass for anybody on the left. I mean, anybody on the right that just jaywalks one day, they basically are Hitler. It's you know what I mean. It's just. It's what it is. And there are people out there like John Solomon, Sarah Carter, doing like real journalistic work these days. But of course, it doesn't hit the mainstream news. It doesn't hit the main, American zeitgeist. And unfortunately, that's where it's at. And the problem is because of that media, it's you have to be very tactical, I think, if you're an AG or you're the Trump administration, about tackling those issues, because the narrative will be spun that it's a political hit and a political assassination. And to be honest, Trump sort of brought that on himself because of the whole lock her up stuff, which was great. It helped win him an election. It was fun. Right. But now when you actually try to go after her, it's going to be seen as a political motivated attack. And I think it's a touchy. Plus, I think you have to be realistic. I think people need to understand, like, this is not really a Democrat-Republican issue. There are tons of corrupt Republicans that are tied into all of this stuff. Yeah. They're all tied into it. I mean, we saw that with McCain, with the Steele dossier. Yeah. They're all wrapped up in it. It's an establishment versus people that want the real deal. And that's why, because both sides of the swamp are trying to keep this stuff under wrap, and that's the issue. I mean, Mueller was heavily involved in Uranium One. I mean, heavily involved within it. So, I think I may be wrong. Don't quote me on this, people out there, but I think he might have been one of the ones that hand delivered it. He was part of that whole organization. Really? So, yeah. Look that up. I may be wrong on that. Don't quote me, but he was heavily involved within the Uranium One transaction itself.
Interesting. That is interesting, but it's not surprising. It's interesting, but it really truly is not surprising at all. I have this little screen grab here. Let me see. Main screen capture with it. Let's see if this works here. Okay, I got to fix something real quick because Skype is screwing with us. So you're good. You're in the wrong spot. So I got to fix you here and. But I wanted to play this clip from CNN, and I don't even know the host's name. It's almost like they're trying to get a different face up there because of all the other ones are so terrible. But let me see here if this is going to go full screen like I want it. Yeah, that should work pretty good. Let me see if this works. cut it over. Okay, cool. So do you know, listen to this. So this was just breaking news where when I was watching some of the, but like we talked about before the stream, it's funny. Right off the bat, he says that the Mueller investigation was fruitful. So let's listen here.
Department is telling us that Attorney General Bill Barr has now received the report from Special Counsel Robert Mueller, the investigation. 675
No, I'm not hearing it on my end.
Oh.
So obviously this is a big moment for this White House.
This is something. That's what it did last time too. I was trying to play something and it wouldn't play to the other. Let me try this real quick. Maybe it's this one. Let me try it. Tell me if you hear it now. If not,
that has hung over the presidency of Donald Trump.
No, I'm not
since
hearing
the beginning,
okay.
obviously.
Shit.
And so,
I get, yeah, it's all right. I get the. What was so?
What
I bet you could basically give me the rundown.
Yeah, no. So basically, he just said that
Mueller found in his investigation,
he's saying what,
and then we'll tell Congress,
you know,
exactly what he can tell them.
What Mueller found in his investigation is he's going to be sharing that with Barr, I guess. And I want to make sure we got the right screen here. I'm going to go back over to you, get him out of the way. Yeah, he's going to be going in there with Barr, and Barr's going to review this. So this is sealed right now to Barr. Is that correct?
Well, Barr, I think, is the only one, at least at this current moment, that has a copy of it. I'm sure people within his legal team have seen it as well. But yeah, he gets a copy of it from Mueller. From my understanding, is he gets the copy. He then gives a briefing to the House leader, or Senate leadership, people at the House committees and things like that, whoever the important figures are there, and then he makes a determination how much gets released to the public. I mean, my personal thing is release all of it. Yeah. Obviously, there's going to be some national security stuff that's going to be redacted because that's just what they do, because apparently we're too dumb or something to be able to handle that information.
Right.
But, you know.
Okay.
I would be for full declassified all and let everybody see it.
Yeah, but then it's going to be also then we got to trust what they're telling us about it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And we, man, it's raining here bad. Sorry if you can hear that.
No, that's okay.
It's coming through pretty good. But it is. They're going to spin it however they want to. So yeah, basically he's saying the Barr is going to review it and then let it basically let the information out to what is relevant or not. But I'm with you on that. As I understand that would be that's pretty crazy that they're going to be the only ones to get to listen or read it.
Yeah, and that's just how the special counsel system works. Really, it's that the AG appoints it. So of course Jeff Sessions at the time had recused, so that's where Rod Rosenstein came in. Right. And this is where it gets real skeptical too, because they pressured Sessions just to recuse himself, right?
Right.
And because he's kind of a cucky Republican, he listened and he did it. Yeah. And Rosenstein, who is corrupt as the you can possibly get, he comes in, at least is allegedly corrupt. I'll correct that, but right. He comes in and he adds that additional mandate. See, so it was supposed to be about Trump and Russian collusion, so on and so forth. Well, then Rosenstein steps in when he writes it up and he puts in there and any matters that pertain or arise from the case. Well, how far do we want to go with that? Because you start digging into everybody and anybody associated with somebody, you're going to find something. You're going to find there's going to be corruption. And the really thing that is, I think, irritating is, so we have Manafort, right? And we all know he's corrupt. The guy's a dirtbag. I mean, to be honest, right? He's nobody to try to defend. But he was tied in with Tony Podesta, who was the brother of John Podesta, which was Hillary Clinton's campaign manager. Tony Podesta was taken up by Mueller. He was essentially brought in for questioning, possibly indicted, given immunity on the whole thing to basically testify against Manafort, but he was guilty of the exact same crime. So again, preferential treatment for the Democrat associate, and then of course jail time for the Republican associate. So it's just kind of the standard issue. Yeah,
isn't it though? Man, it's going to be interesting how they spin this now, though, if nothing comes out. And the whole thing again is just so silly that they were just frothing at 2 years. I mean, it's transparent to me why they're doing it. They just wanted to hamstring the president and not let him get any traction with the people, get any traction with his policies. Just keep him embroiled in this as long as you can. I guarantee you that was when he got elected. That's what they knew. That's how they were going to fight him for his term.
Oh, well, the plan. I mean, their whole takedown was so deep. So we have them apparently illegally spying on Trump, right? This is when Trump comes out with the whole
FISA.
well, before that, before the FISA. So that's when you come out with the whole deal of Trump saying that Obama was spying on me in Trump Tower. Well, you have Admiral Rogers, who comes to a meeting at Trump Tower, and the next day Donald Trump leaves. He goes to New Jersey, I think is where he ended up going to. So he evacuates Trump Tower. So the kind of theory is that Mike Rogers knew what was going on.
Right.
So he went up there and said, hey, look, man, you need to get the hell out of here. They've got this place under surveillance. Right. So he gets out. Well, that plan falls apart. So now they got to go the Steele dossier way. They use the Steele dossier to get the Carter Page FISA warrant. Now that starts to begin exposed. So they couldn't, then Trump wins, right? That's a big issue. So now we have to pull up the Mueller investigation. That's our next step to get him down. Well, now that that's fallen apart, now we're going into the House committees or we're going to get all your tax returns. It's just a continuous investigation to try to stain.
And then they even just said that's so funny you touch on that, because they just said that, a couple of weeks ago or whatever, or when was it? Cohen. When Cohen was in there getting testified, basically saying after the Cohen testimony, which was just a complete fail for the Democrats, but they came out and said, well, we're going to now investigate every dealing he's ever done, now, because they're realizing, we need to pivot, right? It was such a clear pivot and Pelosi saying we're not going to impeach, which I do think on that, I know I'm jumping around, but Pelosi, I think, was just playing both sides. Basically, she left the door cracked open enough to say, if we find anything in there, we can kick it back open for impeachment, but I need to now start stepping away and not showing like the petty little a-holes we are, because we're not going to, you know what I mean? We're not going to get impeachment, so I better start stepping away from that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that was too, because and Pelosi has a problem, and I talk about this a lot on my channel. There's a massive fracture in the Democratic Party. You've got these, establishment, neoliberals. You've got these radical, moronic, sophomoric, new socialists rising within the party that want to just kick the old white lady out. You know what I mean? And it's like that's a problem, for her. So she's trying to do this little dance, the tightrope. Like, how do I not piss off the blue dog Democrats, the business Democrats, the neoliberals, and how do I not have these ravaging hyenas, biting at my ankles all day? Like, that's she's at this weird juxtaposition where it's like, how do you balance that? And she's ultimately going to tank. They're going to eat themselves alive, which is funny. It's freaking hilarious. I love watching it. I love it.
I know. And
just watching them just attack each other. It's great.
I know. You brought up AOC. Well, you alluded to AOC.
Yeah.
And did you watch that thing by Mr. Reagan? He's got 1 and 2 parts on it about how she is just a complete and total actor. I had never heard this kind of conspiracy theory, even though it's really not a conspiracy theory, but it's not, I don't feel like it's all over the news where because he's not a conspiracy theorist. You know Reagan, right, Mr. Reagan?
Yeah, well, I'm not familiar, no, but I'm familiar with the story you're talking about vaguely.
Okay.
So yes, I did see something about that where it was almost like they were looking for actual actors to run.
They were. No, you need to look up Mr. Reagan. He's, I think Ronald Reagan's son, if I'm not.
Oh, really?
He's related to Ronald Reagan. I will say that. Okay. But I think he's his son, but I could be wrong on that. But he's got a really good channel, and very smart guy, and lays out, just very, just, you'll have to check his channel out. But he has a 1 and 2 part series on it right now where they literally were looking for actors to play. No joke, man. This isn't nobody. It's getting no play anywhere.
I know. It's totally believable too.
And that basically her boyfriend or campaign manager. He's alluding to, he's the one pulling, which we've already kind of heard little bits and pieces about with the whole financial debacle and the finance or the finance corruption or finance reform violations. But basically, he is the one pulling the strings, and she's a total marionette. And when she goes off script, they're saying basically he's pointing out the fact that when she says these stupid ass things, it's her going off script.
I believe it. Holy shit! When she did when she did like the cooking. What did I call it? I was like cooking with communists, like where she's out.
When she's in her kitchen? Are you talking about that?
Yeah. I did a video or something about like cooking with communists, but and then the deal with the like we just can't have any more babies. We need to stop. Yeah. I'm like, oh my god, this girl. Like, does like brain to mouth connect? Does that part of your brain stem connect? Like. But you realize that your political ideology dies if you don't have a consistent like population that you're Right? You know,
brain
like,
cells?
Okay.
Are you sure?
By all means, don't have children.
No, seriously, no, don't. But here, you know, some people are saying, I've heard like Anomaly or other people say, don't quit making fun of her, guys. We need to quit making fun of her, not because he supports her, but like because you're adding to her, the people that love her, their power. We need to like quit giving her. I've heard people say quit giving her press and all this, and I think
I actually did a video. I was one of the ones that did a video a long time ago about that. I would kind of dug into
maybe it was you. I listened
into some Twitter people, and I'm with you. I go back and forth on this because you're building a brand, right, by attacking her. But at the time when I made that video, people were like just like rabid wolves on her over nothing, right? It was like over like stupid little stuff, or it was just about her looks. But like, if you're taking like actual context of like stupid stuff this woman says, that's totally different, right?
Right.
But it was like, I was watching some of these Twitter conservatives, and it was like every other tweet was like, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez did this. Look at AOC eat a hamburger. Look at AOC.
You know, Alexander cow farts. You know.
She doesn't like capitalism, but she's using a knife that was made by a capitalist. It's like, come on, guys. You know, like this is where it's getting retarded. This is where you're building her brand. But no, she makes legitimate like screw ups on policy, and sometimes we all gotta take a. I mean, she's just hilarious. Like there's just so much material there. If I was a stand-up comedian, I could make a whole set about her.
But that's the whole thing. It's like the only one really making fun of her are the stand-up comedians on the right. Like, you know, I don't know if you watched the one Crowder did where he did he's like, and we're gonna have AOC on tonight, and he did an interview with her, but he didn't really do an interview. He just had this like funny face of her, and her eyes are totally out of all. It was so fucking hilarious. Pardon my mouth. It was so freaking hilarious though, I just had me rolling. But you know, I agree. You have to be careful of not dropping yourself too low. But like you said, when you serve it up on a platter that easily, just to knock off. I mean, it's like, come on, we've gotta make fun of that a little bit. That's like.
Yeah. Here's the thing, and this is kind of a caution. Like, if I remember correctly, this video I did like months and months ago when she first got elected. Here's the thing: you can mock somebody, and you can kind of make a joke out of them, but don't ever deny the perceived threat, right? Don't ever assume that they're not a threat to you.
Well, that's what they did with Donald Trump. Yeah,
exactly.
That's what they did
with Trump. They perceived he was not a threat. She is a threat. She is. She is likable. She's relative. I mean, not, and I would say good, very attractive, but she's relatively. Let's see what she's
in the right light. She's stripper attractive, okay? In the right light, she's kind of cute.
she's bubbly. She's got. She's one of those people. If she wasn't like a communist that wanted to throw me in a gulag, you know, she'd be cool to hang out with. You know, like she doesn't seem like a bad, like. You know, like a mean person.
No, she seems like
that.
And I don't. This isn't a dig at her, but she seems like a bartender. She has a bartender personality. You know, just easy to go. You know, that's what she has. So.
And you have to understand that we live in a country that is obsessed with consumerism and reality TV. Right. And someone who's an attractive, bubbly, person, if given the right people behind her and the right coaching, is a very dangerous threat. So don't ignore that threat persists. You know
especially
what I mean?
since
you got to keep it in perspective.
Especially since they're teasing the idea of dropping the old voting age to 16. Then she's a real freaking threat. Which is oh, dude, that is the stupidest thing. I'll just say this on it. I think we should raise the voting age with the exception of military. If you're responsible enough to go in there and dodge bullets for your country and to go through boot camp and to have a brain and to be living by then you get a vote at 18. If you're living in your parents' basement, you don't. You don't get a vote until you can drink.
My kind of perspective on this is, I think I did a video on this too, actually. I have I'm open to other ideas, right? So I'm not like just closed off to just military. I'm sure there's some other maybe guys that are police officers. I don't know. We could come up with something, right?
Right.
But there was definitely a time, right, when that voting age was set at 18. 18-year-olds were living on their own, working careers, full-time jobs. We're not in that kind of anything anymore. And not to mention, it's like your frontal lobe isn't fully developed till you're 25, but you're supposed to make policy that's, that's going to affect 350 million people. Like, no, I'm sorry, 16-year-olds, you do not get the right to vote. I don't frankly care if you like my opinion or not about that. Not going to happen. And then it's almost like, So what are you going to do then? Are you going to lower the draft to 16? Are you going to, if I can vote, shouldn't I be able to own a gun? So what, okay, come on, it's never going to happen. I mean, not at least in our lifetime.
And it's transparent. I mean, it's just this, like, I had a list of stuff that I'm going to try to make videos on all the strategies, basically, that but that's one of them. It's plain and simply a strategy that the left has, because they're grasping at straws. So it's like, what are we going to do? We're going to give reparations. We're going to let all illegals in and they can vote. And, we're going to take away the guns. We're going to limit the speech. We're going to, just taxes. They just throwing out a bunch of buzzword stuff that's going to get people excited that they have no intention that's actually going to work, or that they haven't thought through.
Here's the DNC's strategy entirely. Get as many people to vote that you can offer free shit to.
Yeah.
That's it. That's really it. Get as many people in the country, either that aren't in the country or people that are already in the country, whether they're 16 or they're illegal immigrants, or get as many people as possible that you can offer free shit to vote for you. That's it. That's it.
That is it.
It's a numbers game, and it works. Yeah. It's working for them, unfortunately.
It is. Switching gears a little bit to like some of the censorship stuff that's just becoming more and more apparent, or prevalent. So I was super excited to see that Trump signed that executive order for the colleges, on the free speech on colleges. Yes. And I was listening to somebody here in Portland on I don't know, 1190 KEX, one of the talk shows. And it's kind of supposed to be a conservative channel. It's one that has Rush on it, and then it has Michael Berry in the evening. But he's right in the middle, And he's just a guy that just is. I don't like him. I'm not going to say his name, but I don't like him because he's just right in the middle. He's a whiffy waffy right in the, doesn't take any, but you can tell with all the little comments, he doesn't come right out and say, I can't stand Trump, but you can tell he can't stand Trump, and anyways, he was talking about, my ADHD is kicking my ass right now because I had a point with that and I totally lost it. He was talking about, what was he talking about? Oh, damn it. Man, my ADHD, I'm so, shit. Oh, damn it. It'll come back to me. That's age for you right there, man. That's going to bug the crap out of me. What we were talking about, oh, never mind, man. Censorship. That was it.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Censorship. And he was
censoring yourself.
I am. He was talking about free speech in college campuses, and he was mocking it like, well, I mean, come on. There's really what colleges don't have free speech? I mean, yeah, you had the Berkeley situation, and I'm in my car driving, screaming at the radio, going, "Are you freaking kidding me? Have you ever watched like any conservatives try to go onto any college campus and interview the people and just have a conversation with them, and the hate that comes out of them when they know you're a conservative, it is unbelievable. And how the board and the college authorities and whatnot will shut down and go out of their way to shut down any conservative speech on campus.
Oh yeah, and then they do shit like they did to Ben Shapiro when he it was Ben Shapiro, I think a bunch of them, Milo as well, where they say, oh well, you need to pay for the increased security.
Right.
It's like, because your students are being incentivized and are congratulated for causing violence on campus, and your professors are advocating for them to go out and cause violence, they need to pay for security.
Yeah.
That's on you.
Yeah.
But frankly, I don't think Trump went for it. I feel like if you get any federal dollars, right, if you are not going to adhere to the U.S. Constitution, especially when it comes to things like free speech, then you don't get that federal money. And that it goes for tech companies, that goes for corporations, that goes for universities. And this is a big issue I have with people where they sit there and they tell me that, oh, well, Google and Twitter, they're and Facebook, they're just, they're private companies.
Like, it's different.
No, well, those quote unquote private companies received billions of dollars in some cases, like with Google, and hundreds of millions in other cases of federal funding in order to do federal contracts.
Yeah.
To then, what happens is they take that money. So Google gets these billion-dollar CIA contracts and intelligence community contracts.
Yep.
They are now given all this money that they can build infrastructure, they can build server networks, they can do all of this with. So there is no competition. Their competition isn't getting $1 billion contract.
Right.
So no, I say pull them all. If any of these companies that have federal grants, federal contracts, any of it that are not adhering to the First Amendment, pull them. Pull the contract.
Well, you know, it even goes beyond that, and you raise a good point on that, Tom. But it goes beyond that. I've been watching. Have you watched Red Pill America? Have you watched any of the or listened to any of their audio documentaries?
No, I don't think I have.
Okay, man, I'm changing your world today, Tom. You need to get on Red Pill America.
You need to send me an email with some of these links.
I'm going to. These guys are so. He was just interviewed on Glenn Beck, the Patrick Corelli, and I think that's how you say his last name. By the way,
familiar. I've heard that name.
Yeah, he's been around for a while. I used to work for Breitbart and whatnot. And by the way, I'm terrible with names. I got that disease from my dad. Rational will point it out. And hey, everybody in the comment section, we got a few comments coming up. I don't know if you can see the comments or not, Tom. But
yeah, I'm actually on your page right now.
Oh, so. Cool. All right. So we'll get to your comments in a minute. If you guys have anything you want to ask or questions you want to ask about us to, our perspective on, or just throw it out there, but we'll get to them in a second. But anyways, he was talking about how, when you're a conservative, or I'm more libertarian, I think, even more than conservative, but you're big. One of your big things is, okay, we don't want government screwing with business. And I feel that. And I've had people throw in my mind, oh, you're such a hypocrite because you talk about how you're a conservative and libertarian and how big government needs to stay out of business. But now you're saying government needs to regulate. Well, here's the difference. The new tech companies in Silicon Valley, the YouTubes, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the whatever, they're the new public square. So that is, and that is what he's talking about in some of these documentaries he's done, this Red Pill America, and he lays it out, these bills, and there was a lawsuit brought in one of the Supreme Courts for like an old mining, I'm going to butcher this story, but the gist of it you'll get, for an old mining town in like Virginia or somewhere where like the mining company pretty much owned the whole town, and people were scared to speak out because they could lose their job. So there was a judgment, or a case that was brought, which the Supreme Court basically said, hey, even though you own the city, that's still public sidewalks and public place where people can speak without threat of losing their job. Well, the Silicon Valley is the new public square that we all speak on, and so that's where it differentiates from me than like Coca-Cola or some other company that we're buying a product from. If I don't like your product, I just don't have to buy it, right?
Right.
But here they're monopolizing and censoring the voice because when they don't like it, they can censor it, and it's blatantly clear. And they're lying through their effing mouths when they sit there before Congress, and they sit there on the Joe Rogan, and they sit there on all these other platforms, and they say, well, we didn't know that, or we're trying to work through it. And it's a Jack Dorsey.
Jack Dorsey is a cop-out master. He really is. I think he just doesn't even know. I think that guy legitimately doesn't even know what's going on. I think he's just like,
you're giving him more credit than I.
Skydiving. I don't know.
Maybe. But, well, then sell your shares, dude. Go take your $1 billion and just go off into the sunset, But then it would be leave the hands in Vajayjay. Isn't that her last name, Vajayjay?
Oh, God. Man. She was just lying through her teeth. She was.
Yeah.
On that interview. But there's actually was a California Supreme Court ruling about passing out leaflets at a mall. This actually went through the California Supreme Court, which is why everybody focuses on this case because of Silicon Valley existing within California, where they said that a private mall tried to stop people from handing out leaflets. And the California Supreme Court said, no, when you open your business to the public, you now accept that the First Amendment exists on your property. You can't restrict people from peacefully demonstrating or peacefully putting that information out. But yeah, and to back to your point with the libertarian to business, and this is where I get people, because I'm very, I'm definitely libertarian minus, I would say I'm more like a right-leaning libertarian, because I don't get into more the left-leaning, like open borders kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, no. Same
some
with
of the
me.
more kind of like, I just want weeds and gun libertarians kind of get at, where they don't really get into like the more economic aspects of it. I mean, I'm sure you've encountered these type of people too, but which I'm not disagreeing with you on those issues. I'm just saying, like, I get a little more in depth into it, more Rothbardian with it. I don't know if you ever read like any of Murray Rothbard stuff or anything.
No.
If you haven't, check it out. It's like
You're changing my life now.
staple libertarianism.
Yeah.
Dude, I could send you a whole like Liberty library list.
Yeah.
And, Murray Rothbard's where to start. But anyway, see, that whole argument where government shouldn't be in business, I agree. The problem is we have government and business already, because our government is a cronyist system that gives corporations and business contracts. It funnels money to them, gives them priority advantage over the competition by those contracts. Therefore, it's the responsibility of the government to regulate those monopolies that they themselves created. See, if we had a true free market, I would totally agree with you. I would say the government stay out of it, let the free market operate. But you have a situation where the government gives billions and billions of dollars in contracts to specific companies, generally ones that their families have stock in and things like that, the senators that give these contracts, who are immune from actually getting insider trading violations against them. But that's another story. And then these companies get built up, competition. There is no competition, because if one company is getting a $400 million contract from, I don't know, Department of Natural Resources or something, and the other company isn't, then it's not a fair market. It's not a fair free market. It's government cronyism involved, and that's the issue. So any libertarian that tries, or anybody that tries to tell you you're a hypocrite, you're not, because if you're a true libertarian, you're advocating for a free market. We don't have a free market. So if the government is creating this market, then they need to regulate the monopolies that exist within it, or we could just get the government entirely out of business, which is what I would prefer, not having all of this. But
No, exactly, yeah, and I think, to make So yeah, I agree with you. I am maybe you do know I don't know if I misspoke. I'll get the words out here, but I am for them regulating. I am for them regulating when it comes to like Twitter and whatnot in general.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. I want to.
I got you. Yeah. And I agree too. Because the public square argument, totally agree with that too. That's one of the themes I run on is nobody goes out and stands on a soapbox with a bullhorn anymore. It's just not how people operate. Right? We moved into the 21st century. The public square is online. There's a lot of people that have different kind of opinions on this. I think his name is Sheba. I knew he was running for Congress, I think, or Senate in Michigan. Maybe. I think a lot of people, a lot of YouTubers done interviews with him, but he had the idea of basically like a government basically back social media. I don't know how I feel totally about that, but there's a lot of ideas that can be floated, around that. But the system we're currently operating in, Twitter, Facebook, the internet, or the public square. But see, to me, and I'm going to go one of my rants real quick.
So go. Yeah, go. I'm like,
so to me, social media is an issue, right? Okay, Twitter, Facebook, that's one thing, okay? And because people will make this argument that will then create your own social media platform. We've tried. See, the issue to me isn't so much with regulating Twitter or Facebook. It's regulating the domain registrars, regulating the payment processors, and saying, look, you cannot restrict domain registration for somebody strictly because you don't like the content or something like that, right? I think if a big solution is there needs to be either some type of system like that with a law or something like that, where it's like, hey, you can't just kick this site off because you don't like them, or the federal government, being that we are in the new public square system now with the internet, that the federal government needs to do something with domain registration and service hosting or something, so that these companies can't just use their political weight.
But now,
I'm just floating ideas.
No, and I get that, but I guess the thing that scares me when I say the government, what happens when the government goes crazy socialist? I guess it won't matter at that point anyways, because we'll all be shut down. They will have already shut our voice down. I see your point.
I mean, but it's already gone crazy socialist. They're just getting around it by doing it through the tech companies right now, right? So they circumvent the First Amendment by pulling the Section 203 of the Communications Decency Act, which gave carte blanche to these social media companies to do whatever they want. And then they just say and I had an issue with my congressman. I emailed him about this. I tried to explain this to him. Oh, well, the First Amendment only protects you from the government. Like, dude, do you not this is why we need to elect people that understand what this guy's, an older guy, nothing against older people or anything, but he just doesn't get the technology issue.
But the thing is, I wonder if they do get it, but they're just, some of them, I mean, they're not that stupid where they can't understand what we're saying. It's just that this globalist agenda that doesn't fit in the narrative of the globalists. So it's like, okay, we know that in the back of our heads, but we're willfully ignoring it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's, and this guy, like, he's more of an agriculture type congressman. That's his big narrative, his big shtick. And it's like, and I try to explain it to these politicians when I email them and stuff and talk to them, like, you understand that I'm laying the groundwork for you to get elected, right? I'm out here putting out the ideas that are resonating with people who then go vote for your party. If I don't exist, you don't exist, okay? And I'm not putting myself on that pedestal. I mean, like, people like us. If me and you don't exist, we're not all out here talking about your ideas on social media, talking about conservative trends, conservative viewpoints, libertarian viewpoints. These politicians don't get elected. They don't get it. They don't. The media is dead. Nobody in our generation really sits around and watches cable news or reads the New York. Nobody does that. You get your news from YouTube and Twitter and all this. So
you get your news bites. Our attention span is so smaller where we're just like taking the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minute bites and listening to whatever arguments in that 3 or 4 minutes, but we're not watching the whole hour program, either. I mean.
And I just don't think they get it. I think that some of these Republicans especially, I think the Democrats get it a little bit. Trump gets it. That's what got him elected. He gets it. I swear sometimes I'm like, you have a guy that was a reality TV star and a businessman who some people could even argue wasn't even the best businessman in the world. He did a lot,
I did argue that in the beginning because
good.
Yeah.
But this is a guy who was taken as a joke that became the freaking president. Yeah. Pay attention to his model.
He started it kind of as a joke, too. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Pay attention to the model he ran, okay? He ran the social media campaigns. He ran all of that. Do it. Pay attention. And if you're shutting down every young conservative voice out there that's trying to get your point out there, you're not going to get reelected. There's nobody landing the groundwork. Like, nobody's going around knocking on doors anymore saying, here, vote for my candidate. It just doesn't work like that.
No.
And it's frustrating.
It is frustrating. And I think it's pretty. So here's kind of background on me, too, is at first, when Trump was running, I kind of was more of like a Ted Cruz guy, I think, because he was a constitutionalist, I thought. And so that's who. And when Trump came out, I was like, I was part of I didn't hate on him, but I was just like, oh, my God, this is a joke. Give me a break. I didn't pay much attention to him. You couldn't not pay attention to him, but I wasn't like, I just was thinking, this guy is he's such an idiot, or he's kind of a buffoon. And I still kind of think he's a little buffoony when he talks, to be honest, He
is not the most articulate speaker.
He repeats himself a lot. It's fantastic. I love this thing. It's really, and they're fantastic people. Did I mention they're fantastic? Like, yeah, we got it. They're fantastic, dude.
The hugest, greatest. And, I'm telling you, it's the greatest ever. But I mean, it's funny. I like it.
But I don't agree with him on all his policies, and maybe this is something you and I don't know if we agree or disagree on, but like Venezuela, for instance. I think that us going into Venezuela is a bad idea. I think you like it?
No, I think it's a horrible idea to go into Venezuela.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do, nobody's talking about it, behind is with the petrodollar. And, I'm actually trying to put a video out on that right now. I haven't finished it. We'll probably be invaded by the time I get it out. But but then when it comes to Syria, pulling the troops out, perfect. That's an awesome idea. Get those sons of bitches out of there. Yes. Get us out of Afghanistan. Get us out of Iraq.
Speaking of Venezuela, and I'll point this out to you and your listeners, if you've never read a book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman, read it. It's the guy that writes it's very lefty, so you might get triggered a little bit in some of his comments, but you'll get through it. Okay. It's worth a read. It details very much the screwery that went on with the oil markets in South America, Venezuela being one of them.
Really?
And I'm 100%. We have no business in Venezuela. These people voted for socialism, a lot. They put themselves in this position. I'm sorry. There's a bazillion other people that can deal with this. You have Brazil down there. You have Colombia. These other countries can get involved. We don't need to be there. Let Bolsonaro deal with this one.
1 second here. Do we have is the audio okay in the comments here? I thought I heard somebody say Tom's got an echo. Is that right or no? How's the audio? Somebody tell us in the comments.
Yeah, let me know if I'm good or not.
Probably should have asked that before we were 30 minutes in.
Right. Yeah, it might just be lagging because we're running.
There is a lag. We got a bit of a lag here, so echo comes and goes. Okay, so it's not full time all that. No echo now. Okay, cool. Sweet. He had an echo, but it's better now. Okay, good. It was. I've had that problem before, and so I wanted to just make sure we were good. Anyways, you were saying, let them take care of it. Yeah. And us, it is almost like when I've been doing my video that I want to put out, it is almost laughable. The same talking points and rhetoric that was talked about with Libya, that was talked about with Iraq, that was talked about with Syria, and now it's talked about with Venezuela. I mean, he's a bad man. It's a humanitarian. We need to bring democracy. And the interesting part is, and I put this up on my Facebook back in 2017. At the end of 2017, there was a news article I read where Maduro said he was dropping the petrodollar back then. And I made a post, and I referenced it in this video too, because I was patting myself on the back. Because in this post, I said, well, just wait a little bit. Anytime soon, we're going to be going into Venezuela and be saying it's an humanitarian crisis and that we need to save the the Venezuelan people because Maduro is moving away from the dollar. He doesn't want to use the petrodollar anymore. And if you don't know the full workings to the audience of the petrodollar, Google it, look it up, and understand. The basic gist of it is Nixon took us off the gold-backed currency back in the 70s, and he backed it, made an agreement with Saudi Arabia that told Saudi Arabia, hey, Saudi Arabia, we'll protect you, the worst human rights violators in the whole entire world. We'll protect you with our military, and then you only sell your oil with our dollars. And so when countries drop the petrodollar, we go to war with them because, and here's the thing where I'm conflicted on this, is because if everybody was to quit using the petrodollar, America would have the worst recession crash economy wreck of ever known to man. It would be the worst thing that could happen to us. But we'd probably just go to war with somebody before that fully happened. But so I don't want the petrodollar to drop. But the petrodollar is a scam that really does screw a lot of other nations in the world. We hold power over them with it.
Yeah, and this is where globalism goes wrong in a lot of ways too, because there's always going to be some figurehead or empire, and I totally oppose the interventionist wars and all of this stuff we've done in the Middle East and South America during the 1970s and 80s, where it's like, let these countries have access to their own resources. We can work out unilateral trade deals. We can work and negotiate to each other. We don't have to consistently exploit. And again, this isn't necessarily the nation or the people of the nation. These are these very elite, rich people at the top that are exploiting these other countries, and it causes a lot of conflict. But you're 100% right about the petrodollar. It's one of the things that kind of red-pilled me into libertarianism and stuff back
Same
in the
here.
day. You know what I mean? When I started looking at that, I was like, oh my God, like it all adds up. You got a few little countries that don't operate on the petrodollar currently, don't have central banks.
Right.
And they're the ones that we're looking at. And again, this is not like, I don't always think that it's necessarily like, how do I put this? I don't think your average everyday run-of-the-mill politician totally gets it all the time. I think that it's lobbyist groups, and it's like death by 1,000 cuts. We need you to go here, and then this clandestine organization kind of sets up and props up this guy, and they orchestrate it in a way. And unfortunately, a lot of times the American public kind of falls for the weapons of mass destruction line and so on, and it's unfortunate, but yeah, there's so much information out there people should really look into, and I think that's definitely one of them for sure. But yeah, I oppose all that. I think we need to get out of Syria. We need to leave Venezuela. Now, I'm for supporting humanitarian aid, with a certain extent. I'm not a big foreign aid person, but I think in disaster situations, absolutely, right, we can step in. I oppose the foreign aid in the aspect of where we begin to become the resource provider for nations, because I think it stifles their ability to produce for themselves. There's a lot of people that have talked about this, where with like we use like a country A, has a bunch of farmers that are trying to get the agricultural economy going, when then the U.S. comes in and starts dropping off a whole bunch of food. When now it's not cost effective to produce food in the country anymore, and I think we hurt countries sometimes with that. But yeah, I'm not opposed to giving Venezuela like humanitarian aid in a situation.
I'm not either.
Not getting the military. But what happens, I think, a lot of times when people are like with Maduro, like, hey, he's burning the foreign aid. It's like, because let's be honest, there's probably guns in the foreign aid. You know what I mean? If we know anything about how the U.S. deals with proxy wars and things, it's probably a big old pallet of M16s.
Well, did you hear the whole story on that? Did you hear that actually came out? And maybe you didn't follow. Maduro wasn't the one who started that on fire. It was actually the people that the food was supposedly coming in. The oppositions who was throwing they're the ones who started it on fire. Yeah, so there was a big side piece on that. It was done by RT. And see, a lot of people say, you listen to RT? Well, the RT is Russian propaganda. What do you think ABC, NBC, and CNN is? You know what I mean?
Yeah, Operation Mockingbird. I mean, that was a CIA operation back in that started in the 1960s or 70s, where they were basically funneling news and information into corporate media.
Yeah.
Like, you have to, and I say this all the time, like, you have to look at everything.
Yep, that's what I say too.
Lies somewhere in the middle.
Yep, absolutely.
If you take Breitbart and you take MSNBC, somewhere the real truth is somewhere in the gray area between the two.
Absolutely.
And it's, I think people just, need to be realistic. But, I think we're in a good situation. I think we're better off than we have been in a long time. I'm glad Trump won. I'm glad that he's in office. Again, I'm not going to agree with everything he does. I didn't agree with his some of his foreign policy stuff, but above and all, I'm happy with it. I was a Rand Paul guy.
Same here. That's who I was. Yeah, I mean, I did say the Texas guy Cruz, but ultimately Ron Paul, man, those are the two guys I always wanted to win, and Ron Paul even more than Rand Paul, if I'm to be honest. I think Ron was even better than Rand. But yeah, for sure. No, that is really who I would have loved to see win. But ending that, yeah, or getting back to because I left off saying I didn't like him. So for the longest time I didn't like him, and even when he won, I was like, well, I'm glad he won instead of Hillary, because if Hillary won, we would already been at war right now. Just so everyone knows, we would have already been at war with Russia. Yeah. She had that. Yeah, for sure. There was documents, and I forget the documents that right now, but I'll find them, put a link to them. But she had, in one of the think tanks, had this whole. She had already planned. She already thought she was going to win, and had a plan to where she was going after Russia. Russia was the focus, and and that's why Russia was so excited when Trump won, is because they knew at least we're not getting bombed right now. Like we would be if Hillary is.
Well, that's like when people are like, "Well, the Russians, they wanted Trump to win." Like, wouldn't you? I mean, if somebody's basically threatening to nuke me, I want the opposition to win. I mean,
exactly.
Let's be honest. Yeah, but the thing with Trump with me was I definitely was for a long time this very ideological libertarian. Like I said, I mean, Rothbard and Lysander Spooner and Frederick Bastiat was big Ayn Rand, like all into this stuff. And Rand Paul was the closest it resonated with me. And then even in the primaries, but he dropped out, and I was like, man, I really wish Rand would whatever. And it's funny because my wife actually was on the Trump train from the beginning, right? Like 100% on the Trump train. And I was like, he's not, I was doing the typical stuff. Like, I didn't like that he had funded Democrats for a long time. He is like, the guy's like a New York Democrat. He's a business Democrat. He's not some like this hard right winger that everybody makes him out to be. And but I think it was one of those gifts in disguise, because I think Trump is what we needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I may have
absolutely.
wanted a Rand Paul, but I needed a Donald Trump. We needed somebody that was going to shake things up, somebody that was going to come in and really, say the things that needed to be said, do the things that needed to be done. I don't think Rand Paul would have been, honestly, I think if Rand Paul was president, we'd still be steamrolling the same old BS that we've been involved in. As much as I like the guy, I don't think he had the tenacity to shake it up.
No, you're probably right. And it's funny, my buddy Dave Phillips, he's done one of my first streams I ever did on here. Dave, he's a buddy of mine. We met in college, played in a band together, and he's like one of my best friends, lives in California. But he was on one of my first streams I did, and he was talking about how Trump, the way he describes him, he's like, Trump is like the guy, the sheriff. You have these, these bad outlaws running amok in an old Western town, right? And so they've taken over the town. You bring Trump in, who's uncouth, who's not the normal run-of-the-mill politician or run-of-the-mill law enforcement. He comes in and busts the doors open to the saloon and starts effing shooting people and kicking people and throwing them out on their ass. And he goes, that's what he likes about Trump. And I'm like, I'm realizing now that's, I think, what I like, because I do like him. I don't like everything like with Venezuela and some of these other things. I don't necessarily like some of his rhetoric or the way he He talks at times and he sounds buffoony, but ultimately he's doing a lot of good things that are getting no coverage because of the Mueller investigation and because of all this TDS going around, Trump derangement syndrome. He gets no press for the good things that he's doing, and I love the shit out of the fact that he is really just. And here's the thing that I also. Maybe, I don't know if I'm right on this. I think if the Democrats were licking his butt a little more and were kissing his ass, he wouldn't be as hard on him, and he may not be.
I think he likes that.
He likes that. So it's kind of like he is. They're pushing against him. He's like, oh yeah, well F you, I'm going to push back, and so it's almost made him more conservative or more the way people like you and I want, because they're not kissing his ass. If they started to kiss his ass, he might, I fear, he might start loosening up and trying to be a little more middle of the road. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I don't know, but
I don't know either. I don't know either. I think that is one thing with Trump, that he does like platitudes. He does like to feel good, right? You know, he's definitely somebody who likes. He's definitely a narcissist. Yeah, for sure.
What politician isn't?
At the same time, I mean, that guy has dealt with some shit.
Yeah,
I mean, he really has.
He has.
Trudging through the mud, but I kind of like that Trump is kind of buffoonery at times, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it makes him normal.
Yeah.
You had somebody like Obama that would stand up there,
flowery and all that. Yeah.
And he's so good and could say the right thing, and you're like, this guy's just full of shit. Come on, man. Like,
I know.
Where
you're a racist, Tom. You can't say that about him. You're just saying that because he's black, man.
Right. I'm gonna get the skinhead comment.
You are gonna get it, and I'm gonna get it too. We're all right neo-Nazi guys, man. I just shaved this.
Me too. But and it's like, I like having somebody that's like, he's not the most couth guy in the world, and he's off color sometimes. He's a normal dude. Like somebody I can resonate with. Like I don't talk. I mean, obviously I cuss all the time, and you know what I mean. Like, it's just somebody that the average guy can resonate with, and I don't feel like he's this BS, typical politician. And
no,
he doesn't go to Europe and play the whole like, let's have a cup of tea and we're just going to tell each other everything we want to hear. And
right.
He goes in there and he tells them exactly what it is, and I like that. I think we needed that, and that's a good thing. And if better or worse, no matter what happens, Trump shook up American politics.
Yeah, for sure.
He put everybody on their toes, and he broke the status quo. And what used to work is no longer going to work. And that's a good thing. That's a very good thing.
He's like the master troll too, which I'm understanding. I used to think he was such an idiot and stuff, but I'm like, well, he's smarter than I think. And when it comes to the media, he's an effing genius, and he knows how to troll people like no other person knows how to troll.
Sometimes I'm like, I read his Twitter feed and I'm just
no, you're like,
you
dude,
could have left that one out, dude.
I know.
Like, I'm with you, man, but you're sometimes I'm just like, if we need to put like a 30-second delay on Trump's Twitter feed. Just, do you really want to send? Like, ask him 3 times. Like, somebody needs to send. Are you sure, Donnie? Yes. Are you really sure, Donald? Yes.
Yeah, right. And have like some poll numbers that come back, some simulated algorithm poll numbers. If you tweet this is what is going to be said. Do you want to send it? You know what I mean?
Right. It's funny. It's Trump. It's just, and most of it I like, and most of it, there's sometimes I'm just like, oh, man.
Yeah.
You were doing good, and then that last little line about that, maybe we just could have backspaced a few times.
I have a question on Twitter, totally off subject, but why the hell can't you edit your tweets? Why couldn't they figure that out?
I have no idea. I'm sure they can. I don't know why, because that's like everybody's biggest complaint. I wonder if it's because the only thing I could think is that, because in theory, I could put a tweet out that says something like, hey, everybody, have a great day.
Oh, to hold you to it.
100 retweets or 1,000 retweets, and then I could change it real quick to something like highly offensive or something. I don't know, and make it look like a whole bunch of people, like say a bunch of like politicians retweeted something, then you could change it to something highly offensive. People could screenshot it, like Donald Trump, retweeted
That's true. Okay, that makes sense.
That's the only. Because I've thought about this. I'm one of those weird people that sits around and thinks about random things. But
that's true. Because I've thought about it. I'm like, and that's why when he has misspelled, what made me think about this is the times he's misspelled some things and he's just got hammered for it. But give me, how many people don't fat finger a word or even?
Yeah, he's so smart at turning it into a joke.
Like with Kofefi.
With Kofefi. God,
that was so great.
Great, man.
Oh.
They were great. They were absolutely great. Loved them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was it was funny, man. Yeah. Well, wow. I don't want to keep you much longer. I know you said for a half an hour. We've been going almost for an hour. But quick, by the way, now we got some people in here. This is my first time hanging out with Tom, and I think a lot of his, I think I got Rational. Rational's in here. He's one of my go-tos. Shout out to Rational.
I saw Ashley in here. Ashley's been like one of my longtime supporters. So if you're still in here, Ashley, thank you very much. Thanks for coming over.
Yeah. And thank you guys all for coming, and I would love it if you guys can sub to my channel too. I just started. I have almost identical. I don't want to say we are identical, but like all your videos, sometimes I'm like, damn it, Tom, I was going to talk about that, And then
I know. Don't you hate that when you see that? That happened with me. I'll have something in my head all day, and then I'll get on YouTube and like Styx or somebody did a video on the same topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I hate it when that happens, man. I know. But yeah, dude, it's been awesome, man. We should definitely do this again sometime.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
really
no, and before you go, I know I'll let you go here in a second here, but and we'll talk about this offline, but maybe we even set up to where we do kind of a normal scheduled thing. We know that so we set it aside where every couple weeks at this date we're just going to get together. If you're down with that, I mean, I think
we'll definitely talk about some things for sure.
Because I think we have good chemistry together. But Sharia law, man, I've been touching on that a little bit, real quick before you go. And maybe that's not a real quick subject, but. With this Janine Pirro thing, I put a little video up. I did a live stream. Rational was in it the other night. We were talking about it. But the Sharia law thing, I don't understand why people are giving her shit about it, because Sharia law is clearly and blatantly and obviously not consistent with our Constitution. So why do you think, I just want to get your thoughts on this, why do you think, and I think I know what your answer is going to be, but I'll wait to say it anyways, why do you think we're causing such a push on this?
What do you, I guess clarify, like why are people pushing back on her for that?
Why is this even a question about Sharia law being compatible with the U.S. Constitution?
Well, I think it's this weird thing that's going on. It's like the typical like liberal thing where they pick people that they need. It's like that, and it's like that white liberal cliche. It's like, we need somebody to save, you know what I mean? And it's like they've just picked this group of people that they're going to go save this week, because these people can't help themselves or something. And I don't know. I don't totally. I wonder about that, because nothing makes sense that you have the let's say hardcore Islam, right? And we have to be fair and objective too. And this is where sometimes with conservatives, I get a little off on, right?
Right.
We have to be clear that religions are interpretive things, right? Now I understand that in the current kind of phase, a lot of adherents to Islam are very strict, right? Or very strict adherence to it.
Right.
But even as a Christianity, if you read the Bible, if you follow the first portion of that book, it's pretty damn violent, and you know what I mean? So
true.
It is one of those things that depends on how you interpret it. And again, it's like, I think to be fair to them, even Sharia, again, it's like, I think there are people that pick and choose what parts of it they want, but no, Judge Jeannie's 100% correct that the true interpretation, or the direct fundamentalist interpretation of Islam or Sharia law is the antithesis of the U.S. Constitution. It
everything is. Good. Let's just be honest.
yeah, really, for sure, 100%. And where I disagree with people when people do the whole because they'll compare it constantly, because I get in these arguments on Twitter where people are like, oh, well, Christianity says this. Well, Christianity had a Reformation in its inception, right?
Exactly.
Because Christianity and the Old Testament are not the same. They're included, but it's not the same, because as a Christian, it's like Jesus sets the example. Anything that came before that, you weigh against the life of Christ, right? That's kind of how most modern Christians do it.
Right.
Where Islam hasn't really had that Reformation.
No. But see, they'll say they have, but when you really get into it, when you really look into it, it's really they just kind of like to step away from it. And I get there was this thing I read about the 5 stages of infiltration with Islam.
5 pillars and stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah. where you're at, you know, you get into authority and leader, and then when you get to the 5, then you start implementing it. So they try to tiptoe around it, and Linda Sarsour tries to put flowers on it.
No, she's 100% like full out Sharia taker.
Jihad just means struggle.
In her own words.
Right.
I mean, I did a video where I comment on her words, but again, I think to be fair, like, and I try to do that. Like, I try not to be like cocky about it, but like, I think you have to be objective sometimes, and like there are legitimate, I think, people that interpret Islam at a very surface level, the same way that people interpret Christianity to surface level and interpret. Now, I think they're a much smaller minority of those religions, right? There's way higher percentage of fundamentalists, I think, within Islam than, say, Judaism or Christianity of the Abrahamic religions. But
right, and that's
as far as the left's connection to it, I have no idea. It doesn't.
No. And especially with the intersectionality whole thing with like feminism and gay rights and whatnot, it's like, hello, you're marching alongside, you know, the Muslim women and the feminists and the LGBT. They're all marching together. It's like, hello, have you?
I know. I'm like,
blows me away.
It's like when they're like, what was the one, like, you saw these things like LBGT for Muslim refugees, like over in Europe. I'm like, did somebody forget to tell them? You know what I mean? Did somebody forget to, like, they throw you off of buildings and kill you in Saudi Arabia. Like, this is not how this works. But I think that's where it comes from. And that's where I was kind of going with that objectivity look at it. I think what happens is people on the left will take that very light interpretation of Islam and assume that it's the norm and that the extremists are the outliers. And I think that sometimes people on the right take the extremist as the norm and the more moderate as an outlier. And I think that it's such a complex issue that I think no extreme side of either position is right. I don't think that the left is right. I don't think the right that's like everybody that's a Muslim is into taqiyya and trying to take over your country. I don't think that that's accurate either. I think that the truth lies in the middle, as always. But sure. I don't understand the left's obsession with it. It doesn't make any sense. It's, I don't know, other than that they generally don't like Christians, and you know, we'll pick a new. White
Christian males are the new. They are the pillars of, or the stepping stones of the pyramid of intersectionality. We are at the bottom, and we are the biggest threat to the world.
We are the great Satan to
we really truly are, man. It's crazy, but. Well, hey, before we let you go, everyone who came over from Tom's channel would love it if you guys gave me a sub. And if you guys share this stream out, it was just us talking, having fun. I'm going to talk with Tom again when we get off, and when we get off the YouTube is what I meant. Not to make this weird. I think I just did.
Yeah, you just ruined it.
I just totally made it weird. But we want to do this. I think we want to do this again sometime. So it'd be cool if you guys come back and check it out again. But again, I appreciate everyone that came out. Rational, Tom, Potential, Ashley, if you're still here, and all the other 11 people that are watching right now. Really appreciate you guys coming. And until next time, we will see you when you see ya. This is SJG Perspective, and you want to say anything, Tom?
Just thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure. Anybody's here that is coming over from my channel, from the posts I put out, absolutely give them a sub. Great channel. And thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It was a good conversation, good time, and I'd definitely like to do it again.
All right, sweet. Without fear or animus, it's SJG Perspective, and we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Hang on one second here. I'll close her down.